I'd like to call the Committee of the Council as a whole to order. Tonight we will do on the budget hearing, and we have two departments, the Health Department and the Airport. We will start with Health Department. Good evening, Mr. Curry.
Good evening, councilors.
We'll start, Health Department is page 30.
Council, I have about a 5 or 10 minute list of accomplishments that I was going to go through, but out of respect of time, we can just jump right into it. It's up to you folks.
Councilor
I just asked Mr. Could we get a copy of the list of accomplishments?
Sure, I could do that.
Okay,
Yep. Skipping it.
thank you.
Sorry, I'd like mine by email.
Yeah.
Email, please.
Okay, page 30, Board of Health. Total health, 394,404. Total housing, 9,262. Total inspectional services, 322,297. Total public health nurse, 120,112. Total traffic signals, $39,000. Total Board of Health, $885,075. Mr. Curry.
I'll entertain questions. We'll skip the presentation.
Councilor Conry.
I'm a little bit puzzled. What's this total traffic signals doing in health and housing?
As part of the budget, the Board of Health and Housing now, the Building Department is under the Board of Health budget as part of inspectional services. The city wiring inspector is responsible for the repair and maintenance of traffic signals, so him being under the inspectional services would only make sense that the traffic signals budget goes along with him.
Thank you.
Councilors, also, I was negligent in two areas. One is informing you that Mr. Saracen will not be with us this evening. And secondly is, want to make sure that everybody got a copy of the letter from the mayor in response to the letter that I had sent to her. Did everybody receive this on public safety? Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Councilor Di Natale?
Mr. Curry, first I want to say that you and your department employees do a fantastic job. Most recently, there was an issue on Hale Street that required boarding up the building, 6 Hale Street, and that was done in an expedited fashion, and I thank you and your staff. I never have an issue with your department in requesting assistance, so take a lot of credit for that. You're doing a great job. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't comment, as you're smiling now because you're expecting it, because it's the third year in a row I've done this. 2006, $94,000 returned to the city. 2007, $137,000 returned to the city. 2008, $56,000 returned to the city. 2009, $299,689 returned to the city, for an average of $150,000 per year. Now, I'm not picking on you, because I do this to mostly all other departments. The two main culprits in the money being returned to the city as free cash is the ever infamous rubbish removal expenses and the sanitary landfill expenses. Now, 2 years I've requested cuts from these two line items. In both years, I've gotten resistance from not only you, but from the mayor. And once again, if I look through these numbers, in 2008, rubbish removal was, we spent $934,000. In 2009, we spent $970,000. Right now, in 2010, after 10 months, we've spent $759,198. Based on the projected spend rate over 10 months, that account looks like it's going to finish around $915,000. Now, you'll notice that the last 4 years, we have never broached $970,000. Yet the budget for this year is $1,135,000. I'm not a gambling man, but I'm going to wager you're not going to spend even close to that. And the reasons I've gotten in the past make sense, but the numbers don't lie. And I'm not saying that you've lied or anybody else has lied, but I look at these numbers and it doesn't come close to what we're being told is going to happen. Your department is a poster child of what I've been saying since 2008, that if the city is serious about having free cash at the end of the year, they need to be honest with the people at home. They should not tell the people at home, the administration should not tell the people at home that you're bare bones, that this department is bare bones, that this department has no leeway, and yet have all this money left over. This is why months ago I've continuously advocated, like other cities and towns do, and Mr. Saracen has corroborated this. What they do is, if you spent 970, you get 970, and the excess goes into a secondary reserve account that balances the books, and if you need more, you can come back and get it. Now, I'm not using this year, I'm not using last year, I'm using 5 straight years. Sanitary landfill is even worse. 2006, we spent $660,000. Since that date, we have not broached $600,000. $584,000 was spent in '09, and currently we've spent $470 in 2010 with a projected spend rate to about the same as 2009, $575. Yet you're getting $740. The cuts that I'm going to propose does not cut it down to the level of what's been spent. It actually gives more money than what you're currently spending. My problem with this is, like any other department, don't tell the people at home there's no leeway, and then overfund this. I'm not confident you looked at these numbers before we got them. So my criticism's not at you, it's at the mayor. Because I feel bad for you that you got to listen to me do this every year. I'm not punishing any department head for not spending their money. I want this done accurately. To tell the public there is no money for anything, but hide it in these accounts so we get free cash, I have a big problem with that. Current administration and past administrations. My recommended cut for the rubbish removal is $80,000. That would bring us down to $1,055,000. That is $100,000 more than what has been incurred in this account for 5 years. That's still $100,000 more than what we've spent, even with an $80,000 cut. Last year, the mayor funded sanitary landfill $820. We cut it by 80, and then there was another cut for 25, which told me then, this is going to happen again, because you're not going to spend $820 on sanitary landfill expenses. It hasn't happened in 6 years. Sanitary landfill, I recommend we cut by $90,000, bringing that $740 total down to $650, because the last 3 years, we haven't even gotten close to $600. I don't care what the reason is, it's just a financial reality. And the fact that we had $2.5 million left over last year kind of corroborates that reality. So the money that I'm proposing we cut would still give you significant balances over what you have incurred in the past. If you're going to go over $650, if you're going to go over $1,055,000, then my hope when I propose this money gets cut, is that the mayor at the very least puts it towards free cash or puts it into a reserve account where it belongs, not hidden in department accounts under the mask that there's no leeway. It's not true. There is leeway. It happens every year. Councilor Caddy, Councilor Conry talked about the 5 police officers. $170,000 will get you almost 4 cops. $170,000 will get you 5 police cruisers, or it will reduce the need to take $170 out of free cash. I don't care. One account, and I'm sorry I'm picking on him, but it's not his fault. He doesn't put these numbers together. Yet he's got to take a beating from me, which I think is very unfair. So I also am suggesting 2 more cuts, $4,000 from mileage and $2,000 from supplies. Mileage. We spent 10 grand in 2008. We spent 9 grand in 2009. We spent 4,300 in 2010. But the mayor's giving you 14,000. Why are you getting 14,000 for an account that's never gone over $10,000?
May I comment on that?
Go ahead.
We have additional employees.
Okay, so why is this year only at 4,400?
The new part-time inspectors are entitled to mileage.
Agreed, but so if that's the case, why are we nowhere close to what we spent in '08 and '09? This is the status E report through April. The budget is $10,000, $10,130. We've spent $4,300 so far after 10 months.
The mileage payments don't go out till June, so this year's mileage payments have not been dispersed as of yet. I can assure you that count is dead on. There won't be a dollar left in it.
Okay, then I'll take,
And the 14,000 for next year would include, the inspectors union has a mileage contract. They get paid a flat rate. So the half-time inspectors will get half of that. And I can get you a little bit
oh,
more
no,
detail.
that's fine.
It's $45 a week.
I'm glad, okay, that's fine. I will remove that suggestion. That just leaves the rubbish removal and the sanitary landfill.
Back to, well, you mentioned some office supplies.
Well, the supplies down below, not office supplies, the supplies. It just says supplies on the health expense for $5,000.
supplies.
It's, again, 5,000,
I can just comment on that too. What we've done for, that account is usually for the purchase of landfill stickers and permits. Basically, what we've done for the last couple of years is try to save a few bucks, and we have taken permits from previous years and cut the date off. So that's why you don't see the actual spending in the last couple of years for the permits. Unfortunately, that's not something we're going to be able to do this year. And with potentially a new trash program, I may have to have additional permits.
you understand why I look skeptical?
I understand.
Because 5 years in a row,
Yes.
we haven't had to do it, now all of a sudden this year we do.
Well, specifically refer to an account. If you want to talk about supplies, that's what I'm discussing.
Okay.
As far as rubbish removal, if we want to skip to that, I don't want to give you the impression that I'm resisting you, but rubbish removal is a bid contract. And again, since I've taken over in 2008, it's my initiative to try to save the city money. I can show you the actual contract in hand. It gives you the figure, which is on here. The reason why we're not reaching that is because I'm policing the city cleanups. I have cut yard waste collection. I've publicly didn't want to make that known, but we have saved upwards of $30,000 from cutting down the weeks of yard waste.
That's terrific. But
It has worked out, Counselor. It has worked out because when yard waste collection doesn't, it's projected a year in advance. There's collections in the spring, and then there's collections in the fall, and there's one collection each week between them. Each month between them. Some years, for example, in the fall, and it's happened in the spring also, we've had snow on the ground when the yard waste collection has started. I can't stop the yard waste collection, so what we have done is cut down the week so I can add on the end of it if we run into a problem like that.
Mr. Gray, do you
So I
understand?
understand
Do
what
you
you're saying,
understand, though,
yes.
that we have never gone over $1 million in
Well,
5 years?
The price of the
Yet
contract
this year it's
rises
$1.3
every year.
million.
This is a 5-year bid.
Yeah.
It goes up $50,000 to $60,000 every year.
We don't spend it,
We don't spend it because of the things I've done.
and that's
I
wonderful.
thought that was the initiative to
No,
save money.
it's-
If you would rather just present the budget with a projected amount, that's not the bid, I don't know, that's
I
a
would
dangerous
I
game.
would like a projected amount that's based on reality.
Well, it's a bid. I can show you that.
I'm
It's a
not
5-year bid.
doubting the bid, I'm not doubting the 1135, I'm saying that I know we're not going to spend it.
Well, what you're telling me, Counselor, is to spend the money every year.
No, I'm not telling you what to spend the money,
Well, that's
Mr.
the
Gray.
impression
I'm saying keep saving
I'm
it.
better off spending the money and just letting the program go rather than policing
I
it.
am not advocating we spend the
That's the
money.
way I take it.
Well, that's the wrong impression.
Okay.
Because what I'm saying is, you don't need 1135 because you're doing those measures. You don't need it. It's
I
nowhere
may
near
not
that.
continually be able to do those measures. I've got away with it for a couple of years, yes.
And I'm skeptical that all of a sudden this year, you're not going to be, I can't buy that, Mr. Curry.
Okay.
It goes for, across the board with me on this, okay? I am not trying to punish you because you're doing a great job saving money for the city. What I am saying is, when we're told by the administration that you don't have any wiggle room, that is a misconception, okay? It is. This should go into a reserve account where it belongs, and if, for whatever reason, those things don't happen, then you can come back to us. But I'm looking at 6 straight years
What
here.
concerns me, if I might interrupt you, is if you cut it drastically, are we going to be able to be... FY07, we had 24,000 tons of trash produced in this city. Right now, we're around 18. It's probably the economy. Big portion, people are recycling more. Who's to say that the economy doesn't come back and we go right back up to 24,000 tons? We have to pay for that. Are we going to be able to supplement $100,000 when I come asking for you, when I run short? That's just a question that I have.
I understand, I'm just saying, it's never gone over
I
$1
base my
million.
numbers on the worst-case scenario, and that's what I've done. And I respect that the account has not made its projected number for a number of years, and I respect your argument, absolutely.
It's
I
just,
just
it's
don't
tough
want
to
to put
take.
us in a position to not be able to find the $100,000 and we have to stop rubbish collection.
Well,
That's just my
I
strategy,
guess
whether
we have
it's right or wrong, it's my
No, I
strategy.
appreciate it. I really wish you wouldn't take it as a slap to you that I don't want
I
you to
don't
save
take it
money.
as a slap. I
What
just want
take
you,
it
I
as
just
is-
want you to tell, I just want you to know what my thinking is, that's
Okay.
all.
All right, but I'm going to hold true to my
This is
80 and
not rocket
90,000
science,
dollars.
obviously.
I understand. I'm still not going to take that away, though. I want that as a recommendation for cuts in both those accounts, because I guess I need to be proved otherwise, because it hasn't happened yet. It just hasn't happened yet. We haven't gotten near to those levels. And until we do, then I'll apologize. But until we do,
Okay.
keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. That's why I'm saying we don't need all that money.
I just don't know how we can actually take a contract and not appropriate what the final number is.
Well, what about the sanitary landfill? What about that one?
That's a projection. Again, like I said, 24,000 tons in 2007, I don't know that that's not going to happen again. I feel that I need to prepare the city for something like that to happen again. Every year, disposal costs go up. I hear what you're saying. I'm just trying to put the city in a position not to have to come up with money.
What bothers me, though, Mr. Curry, last thing I'll make here, is that, I don't know if you saw this budget before we got it, but,
You know the answer to that.
well, then these aren't your numbers.
With all due respect, these are my numbers. These are the numbers I submitted to the mayor. I will take full responsibility for these numbers.
Okay, well, we have a disagreement. I stand by those cut recommendations. I'm looking at 5, 6 straight years of data. It could happen this year, I don't know, but I heard the same stuff last year.
You did.
I heard the same stuff 2 years ago, and it's the same.
I will be completely honest with you. It is the same.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
I just want to reiterate that this is actually one of the few forums where people who spend all of their money get congratulated, and people who don't spend all their budget get spoken to, I should say. There's been some words that have been put in my mouth. Bare bones, no leeway, no money for anything, any wiggle room. Absolutely, we have a tight budget, but I don't remember saying any of those things anytime recently, especially not regarding this budget. In fact, on May 21st in the Pride, it stated, Wong said her goal is to try not to budget for less than the city will need. Exactly what Mr. Curry stated. If these budgets are underfunded and we have to come up with cash I don't know about you, but I don't know where that cash is going to come from. So I would rather us be as conservative as possible, which is what this budget is, especially until we reach the minimum required $5 million in our stabilization that the DOR requires. So I think, if this sort of continues that, that the logic for this sort of line of questioning is because of things I said that I didn't say, then I'd like to see that stop.
Mr. President?
Councilor Di
Can I
Natale.
respond to that? I don't know what planet I'm living on, but every time I've advocated for extra money for streetlights or for public safety, I have heard rhetoric that said, we can't do this. There have been many occasions where the mayor has told me in public session, you do this, I'm going to have to lay off police officers. You go to the tapes. It's been said many times. My point here is not to lay blame at the hand of the department head. I love how that gets spun into that's what people may think. That is not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say to the public is you're getting allotted a certain amount of money that for 5-6 years you haven't come close to spending. So don't give it to public safety. Put it into a reserve account and use it as a secondary free cash account like other cities and towns do. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not picking on you, I do this for a lot of departments. So we just have a general disagreement on it. I am standing by the cuts, and I apologize if the mayor thinks I'm putting words in her mouth, but this is what I've been hearing since 2008, every time I make a cut recommendation. We shouldn't do it, we shouldn't do it, we shouldn't do it, because of this, because of that. I read that article in the Pride, I saw that quote. It doesn't jive with everything else that I've been asking that we do, because I get the, don't do it, the warning lights go on. So I am trying to be really conservative. Put it away. And then if someone needs it, come before the Finance Committee for added transparency. Thank you.
Counselor, if I could only comment, if we make the cut, it's not put away. I just want to be clear
The mayor
for
will have
everybody.
the option.
If we make the cut, that money does not get put away to be used later on at the mayor and the council's discretion. If we make that cut, that money does not exist.
The mayor can't put it anywhere.
That's not in the budget if we make the cut. The mayor would have to do a supplemental budget in relationship to cuts that we propose if that were to occur. I just want
Okay,
to
then the mayor can make a supplemental budget. I mean,
clarify
thank you.
that difference. Mayor Wong.
Sure. I just want to make sure that the point isn't lost. So should there be cuts made, and should those cuts be set aside, that's all well and good. What I'm trying not to do is I don't want there to be cuts such that we end up spending more money than is in the budget. If cuts are made, where I've said don't make the cuts is don't make the cuts and then spend the money. So I'm for making cuts and putting them in reserve. I think that's what I did. But if we're going to make cuts and then spend it on patrol cars, if we're going to make cuts and then spend it on streetlights, if those cuts are from departments like this and we end up needing the money, then we've already spent it. I think we can actually achieve the same purpose of what Councilor Di Natale is saying, is if we do it 1 year ahead. So what we need to do is we need to catch up a year so that we know that we've had that available cash at least for a year, and we know we don't need that to plug the next year's budget. Then we can use that past available funds. And, I mean, right now, I would say that if we had that past available funds, one of the things that we have been actively doing is using that to build up stabilization in lieu of making expenses. So, I mean, but these are all choices that we have. There's plenty of good places for that money to go, but the caution that I have is let's not be quick to spend money if we might need it later. And like I said, I would rather budget for, a little more than we need, knowing that that money could be used in subsequent years for all the purposes that we talked about, whether it's streetlight, cars, and so on. We have that option. But where we get stuck is if we cut the budget, then we reallocate the money, and then we come into some trouble, and then we don't have any money set aside to deal with things that might happen. That's where I want to be cautious about.
If I may make one recommendation also, I understand the council can only cut and not add, but you'll notice within the budget that there is no, as far as inspectional services for the building department, there is no clerical. So if cuts are to happen, I would certainly appreciate some direction to be looked at, some clerical in the building department, as well as full-time funding for an entire year for 2 half-time inspectors, which the council approved several months ago. Right now, the budget only contains $20,000. It does need 40 for a full-time, 2 half-time inspectors for a full year.
Counselor Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do agree with you that you need some clerical support in your department, and I'll begin by saying thank you. Thank you for helping the city in not spending the money that is available in your budget and helping the city save money. I'm looking at the numbers, the same numbers that Councilor Di Natale has looked at. Actually, my numbers are more up to date. My numbers are up to May 19th. And the 2 line items that really stand out to me, and they both stand out to Councilor Di Natale as well, are the rubbish removal expense and the sanitary landfill expense. Up to that date, both accounts are underspent by 30%, a little over 30%.
If I might comment on that, yard waste collection is in process as we speak. So the average monthly rubbish collection and disposal costs are higher at that time. So I think your projection, there is obviously some breathing room there, but I don't think it's as high as you folks are projecting. I think we're at a little closer to $1 million in rubbish removal after we pay for all the extra pickups that are going on during spring.
Right. Steve,
I just want to throw it out there.
You might be right, but I'm not projecting anything. I'm just giving you the accurate numbers. And are you anticipating it within a month or so that both accounts you will be spending 30% of both accounts?
Is that a question?
Yes.
I don't think it's quite 30%, but I will say that we will not reach the budgeted amounts.
Okay. So because of that, it makes me, it forces me to agree with Councilor Di Natale, because by looking at your expenditures for the past 3, 4, 5 years, you've never spent close to the proposed budget amounts. I understand that, the budgets are based on bid amounts, and I understand that have initiated several
Cuts.
things that have made this possible for us to save the money. At the same time, year after year after year, we see these amounts left over and these amounts get appropriated to other accounts for usage. So, and we keep on doing that at the end of every budget season. So why would there be any why wouldn't you be in support of this council making some kind of cuts, maybe not the $80,000 to the rubbish removal or $90,000 to the sanitary landfill expense, but some kind of cuts to show that, we've been underspent in these accounts, and let's put the cuts in an account where if you need money, you can come back to the council with orders, and if you don't, those amounts will stay in those accounts.
I have no objection to that.
Thank you.
Counselor Joseph. in past years, under the building inspector, I think that all of the care and maintenance for City Hall, electricity and heating has all been under the inspectional services. I see that you've spread them out completely. Senior Center's got theirs, Library's got theirs, City Hall has theirs. Would it be prudent to have Mr. Laxo, if he's going to be watching over city buildings, fuel and electrical, to watch over, again, that cluster of buildings again for electricity and fuel, as opposed to breaking them up to Senior Center, Library, and City Hall?
I can answer. It's a lot of additional work for Mr. Laxo to oversee the City Hall building. As you know, we used to have a full-time custodian here, so we didn't have to worry about all the little things, whether an electrical outlet was an issue, whether there was a ceiling tile, or if there was more major issues, like if there was a window broken, or if the boiler broke down. But now that we no longer have that position, Commissioner Laxo has essentially taken on a lot of those duties. So to ask him to take on those duties and then also add on library and senior center and so on, I think would just be too much. The library has done, and I think they're best to take care of the library building because they're there. Same thing with the senior center and same thing with other buildings. So we think that the way that it's worked out here, there will be the least amount of burden on each of the staff, and that the staff that is most present with the building would be the first to see an issue, give them control over being able to fix that issue as quickly as possible.
My main concern is about fuel and electricity, and I know this isn't your budget, but you used to have it in that budget, that's why I brought it up now. Just like the school system, where they're trying to do improvements for their system by getting programs in to control fuel and electricity. If these are scattered around, everybody's just going to be, okay, here's my fuel bill, sign off the electricity, sign off the fuel, and they're done for the month, as opposed to somebody looking at how are they going to manage that properly. And I guess that's my concern, is manage somebody that's going to actually manage fuel and electricity and not just pay the fuel and electric bills. That's my concern. So just part of a discussion, I guess, for another day. I only brought it up because it used to be in this account. And the only other comment that I have, I know what the two other councilors have said, but I don't think anybody has ever told us that that's the contractual amount. That's just been the budgeted amount. So I guess that's where, nobody ever told us where that number came from. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, that number's in the contract, that, you know, it's not, it puts a little bit of different light on it. Everybody just said, that's the number that we're going to spend, or we could spend, or we might spend. That's the number that's contracted. So that's a bit of information I had never heard before. Thank you. Councilor Conry.
Yes, I don't totally disagree with what Councilor Di Natale is saying, because I do believe that Mr. Curry is doing a fine job. Things are happening in the health department, and we're moving towards recycling more. We're doing more with less. I do have a concern about the stabilization account, and I don't want to stray too far from what you have said earlier, Councilor, that we stick to the budget. But, you know, I don't think the DOR has said to us that you have to put this amount of money into a stabilization account. They recommend that the city do it. And I just look back and say, well, if the revenue is not coming in, we need to operate the city. Maybe we need to take a look at how much money we really are putting into that stabilization account. It's like a young family that's being brought up by two individuals who are working, and there's not enough money left over after expenses to save money. I think maybe some of us have been in a position during our lifetime that we have been unable to save money. We want to pay our bills and keep up with expenses. So, you know, I am for a stabilization fund, but on the other hand, maybe we are too anxious to get that built up to a great amount and overlooking some of the things that really have to be taken care of in the city. An example is this building. I've talked about this building before. If you go into our neighboring cities' city halls, they are immaculate. This is the place where people come in to see what kind of a city we got. And I won't use the expression I used before, a couple of years ago. Councilor Joseph thought that I shouldn't have said that. But you know, take a walk out in the hallway and look at the rugs. Take a walk downstairs and see what's going on down there. This building is a disgrace. So, you know, we need to have some attention. We need to put a few bucks towards this building, too. Thank you.
Counselor Caddy.
Mr. Curry, we're hearing page 30 to page 36. So if I have a question about the building inspection services, you're going to answer those questions?
As far as building inspection?
Yep. And so that means that everything on these 6 pages, you're the person responsible for the amounts. You're in control of all these monies on these 6 pages.
That is my understanding, yes.
Are you in charge of the building inspector now?
As far as this budget, it appears that I am.
And also, housing PS, housing construction manager, program maintenance assistant,
Yep.
management
My
assistant.
comment, that's two members of the Community Development Department.
Okay. So, in red, on the 6 pages, is the CDGB allocations.
Right.
In red, 8,300 for you, 45,000 for the housing construction manager, 38,000 for the program management assistant. Who,
Might I add, there's also 115,000 on page 31. That's not in red.
could you,
15,079.
and on page 31?
Yep. Be the top column, actual bottom line item.
Okay. So, are you also managing the CDGB funds? Are you the person that's going to track it, record it, make sure that the contracts are being adhered to so that the government doesn't get mad at us? Are you fully responsible for all these red line items?
No, my understanding of that is under the Treasurer's Department as of now. And my responsibility is to make sure that these 2 portions of that grant are...
So, even though it's in your budget,
Overall, I am not in charge of CDBG,
but you,
but
There's
similar...
a difference between being in control of the CDBG program and having positions that are funded by CDBG.
I've had inspectors for 25, 30 years, way before my time, that have been funded by CDBG.
sure.
That
So
doesn't
who's...
make- That doesn't make me the administrator.
A couple meetings ago, Councilor Joseph made a comment, and who is ultimately going to be in control of CDGB? Do we know that yet?
Yes, the contract management team that will be under finance and administration.
Would it be too much work to do a spreadsheet so that we can see where all the CDGB money is going and layer it so you know who reports to who's in charge of the monies, and, you know, ultimately who's in control so that everything works up to that one person? I'm a little nervous after Councilor Joseph said that a few weeks ago. I'm a little nervous that we're not going to adhere to the strict policies of these grant monies, and that we could end up in trouble with this. And
If I might add, I share your concern. 1/5 of my department is CDBG.
yeah,
Counselor,
And-
would you like me to
well, I
request in
don't.
writing from the mayor?
Things are very complicated during the
Organi-
budget season, but it seems as though after it was said I'm sharing Counselor Joseph's concern about it. When Dave Streb and Larry Casassa were managing these monies, I mean, they have a lot of knowledge, and I'm afraid that we're going to end up in trouble. It seems great, it seems okay, but something tells me I would like to feel more comfortable knowing that somebody is ultimately in charge, and they're going to make the right decisions and do the job correctly.
Counsel, what I was going to suggest was, it's a separate issue, though, than from the fact that Mr. Curry has some CDBG employees in his division. If you'd like, I will send something to the mayor
Sure.
requesting a clear job description and who's in which department regarding CDBG, so that we can, because now it's going to be spread out amongst some different departments. Some are going to be in Mr. Curry's department, some of them are going to be in Mr. Laxo's department, some of them are going to be in Mr. Dotney's department.
Yeah.
So I think we can ask for clarification
I
on
think
that.
it's a good question. All right. And then just to go back one more step, and I'll ask the question again. Is the building inspector going to work for you?
Apparently, yes.
So you'll be his boss,
Correct.
along with everybody under him?
Correct.
And HSG, CONST manager, housing construction manager, he's going to be working for you, along with a program management assistant is going to be working for you.
That is my understanding, yes.
Is there anybody else on here that you didn't have before that I'm missing, or is that it?
Councilor Connery pointed it out, traffic lights, traffic signals,
Traffic signal maintenance
and I believe that's it.
and signal lights, contract services, service contract trucks. So are you going to manage that?
I'm going to oversee it and manage it to the best of my ability, yes.
But who is going to manage it? I mean,
Well, ultimately, the first supervisor, in my eyes, is going to be the building commissioner. And I'm going to oversee the building commissioner's call. So if there's a traffic repair necessary, that I will ensure that the job gets done and that the appropriate people in the budget is kept in line.
all right.
Councilor Connery.
Yes. I'm a little confused here. You know, some of the councils are asking the same questions in different ways, and I think we're all trying to get the same answer. When Mr. Curry, when somebody asks him if he's going to be in charge of this, he seems to be a little wishy-washy on his answer, and I'm not criticizing you, but he says, apparently I am. Well, has Mr. Curry received notification, clear-cut lines of authority, clear-cut lines of responsibility? I mean, we're talking about this reorganization, and I don't think anybody knows what the hell is going on. Nobody knows who's in charge of what. That's the question. Who's in charge of what? And this council ought to know who's in charge of what. I go out on the street and somebody asks me a question, can you take care of this, and who's in charge of this? And I say, geez, I'm not sure, I'll have to check. We need to know who's in charge of what. And I think that this reorganization, and I'll say it, and the mayor is sitting here, is nothing but a sham. Thank you.
Councilor Joseph.
Last week, when the council as a whole met, one of the recommendations was to cut some money out of the Hooper Home Program from the CDBG. Is that one of the two positions that are funded under your organization, and what effect does that have on those folks?
My understanding is no.
Who is funded by that money that was suggested to be cut, or is currently tabled?
The Hoop and the Home funds would pay for the people that say less CDBG/home.
In his budget.
Correct.
Okay, so that the council has not funded one of these positions as of right now. If the council went through with its decision to hold off on the funding for that CDBG, one of these positions would be cut. I just wanted to make you aware that that's one of the positions that we didn't say okay to during CDBG final.
Madam Mayor?
There have been questions in the past about the reorganization. That's why, prior to your commencement of any budget discussion, I sent you a memo trying to answer questions that I had heard from the city councilors. In that memo, I included the entire reorganization, not just of the Community Development Department, but of all the city departments in the city. As you have seen, it resulting in a savings of about $300,000. Now, we've saved $300,000. We have significantly less positions, and at least just based on the phone calls I'm getting in my office, people are pleased with the service. So we have done better with less. The reorganization, as I've also stated, is not yet complete. It's still in process. Unfortunately, I have to give you the budget on May 15th, and we have until July 1st or later to complete the reorganization. So this budget reflects flexibility to make sure that we can have positions that cover all of the services that we need. All the department heads have been informed of what their responsibilities are going to be. They were actually informed when we first started the process, so I frankly haven't heard any, at least haven't said it to me, but haven't said anything to the negative regarding the reorganization or the additional responsibilities. We've saved a lot of money by not having the Community Development Department. We've noted that there is one less department head. There's also clerical that we can't fill. So we could have a Community Development Department that has no department head nor clerical. That doesn't work. That department, even with the department head and the clerical, was not working in the way that I would like. There has been some discussion about making sure that the program is done from an administrative level correctly, and my understanding is that as far as I've been in the city for the past year, the criticism had actually been focused on the actual implementation of the projects. I'm not hearing that this time. So there's both. You need to administer a program correctly, but if the program, if the right projects aren't being picked, and then those projects that are picked aren't being completed from a construction or infrastructure properly, I mean, that's what I've heard. That's where the complaints are. So this reorganization not only saves money, but it's also looking to put the expertise for the actual building and construction where the expertise actually exists. And it's also looking for us to not be grant-driven, because I know that's another criticism that I've heard from this council over and over again. We can't be driven by grants. So yes, there's always been people in the Board of Health that have been CDBG funded. So this isn't really a change in terms of exposure to CDBG. Same thing with DPW. That department has been exposed to CDBG for the past few years, especially in administering and constructing projects. So again, nothing new that we're seeing. In terms of the paperwork and so on, without the department head, without the clerical, we found it best that the department that oversees all other contracts, all other grants in the city, should also see this as well, because that, for me, is a good consolidation of services. So this attempt here is to better administer a grant and to better implement a grant, but again, this budget is not grant-driven. We want to have a housing and health strategy that actually makes sense for the city, and that CDBG is just one tool to make that strategy successful. So we're not just talking about CDBG, but let's start talking about health. Let's start talking about the housing strategy and go from there first, instead of just talking about CDBG home hoop and so on. And I think that's probably why you turned down the hoop funds, because you were dissatisfied with what you felt that it could do to impact the city. And this new budget is an attempt to say, let's focus on those issues first, and then let's look at the funding sources to actually make that happen, rather than, again, be driven by funding sources. So I sent you that memo. That was a list of positions added and deleted with their salary. I can certainly put that in a chart that shows who is who's responsible for whom. That can be easily done. I can get that emailed over to the council. But if the council also wishes, we could also have certainly a special presentation that would probably include the city solicitor, the 3 departments that are overseeing major portions of the CDBG grant, and our Human Resources Director and myself come and present to you the reorganization itself. So we can certainly do that. But what I'll do first is I'll send you the chart with all the employees that are being affected, and, and I'll just wait to see if you want to have a presentation at a later point in time.
Councilor Tran.
Thank you, Mr. President. The mayor stated that in the past, it hasn't worked out by having a department head and a clerical. Has it been working out for you, Mr. Curry,
Absolutely.
without a clerical?
I haven't experienced no clerical. I don't
And-
understand your question.
I'm leading to this question here. Now that you're overseeing the health department as well as the building department,
Right.
now known as the housing, you don't have a clerical help.
On the building department side, no.
Now, we all know that that department is a revenue-generating department.
Right.
Without somebody in the office answering phones, greeting builders, homeowners, what have you, coming to the office, how is that going to work out?
That's something that I've been told that it's expected of my 1.5 clerks that I have in my office are going to inherit that duty. Obviously, I don't agree with it, and it's a dangerous game. My 1.5 clerk, I could potentially keep 2 clerks incredibly busy full-time. So they are overwhelmed already. To add another department and over 9 employees, or 11 employees, I think it is, nearly impossible. I will be completely honest with you, that's my opinion. But I guess you presented a budget, I have to find a way to make it work.
Have you advocated for a clerical position
I started today, yes.
today? Any response?
I guess I'll say my response. We actually had a great discussion beforehand. I completely understand. Every department has advocated for more clerical. I mean, I get advocated by departments all the time for more resources, but that's the point of management, is to figure out where those resources should go. We don't have the money for it, but let's say the money came about for a clerical. I believe that other folks in here have advocated for more streetlights. Other people here have advocated for additional policing. I'm open for group discussions, but I want to get to the point where we actually have the ability to then spend more money on staff that we can then sustain. Because the last thing I want to do is to bring on staff and then have to pay 99 weeks of unemployment, because that takes away from other existing positions. So I completely understand. I think every department here can make a case for being understaffed and needing more resources, but we have to do the best that we can. DPW for a long time had 2 clerical, now they have 1. The Board of Health has had more inspectors than they have now. They've been doing with less. Same thing with the building department. They've already lost clerical. There was a number of people in that office on the 3rd floor that are no longer here. And the same thing goes with the treasurer's office. They've been making do this past year with 1 less clerical. Same thing with the police department. So, and I hate to do that, but I also made those decisions that's where the cut would be versus, let's say, inspectors and officers and so on.
Well, in my opinion, not every department generate the amount of paperwork that the building department or the Board of Health do. And you need help in that clerical department.
I agree.
That's all, thank you.
Counselor Caddy.
I've got both of the communications from the mayor explaining the budget, and neither of them address what we were talking about tonight. Just make a comment. Mr. Curry's answer about not really being sure that he's in charge of the building commissioner bothers me. When you're reorganizing a city with $94 million budget, the table of reorganization has a lot of holes in it, and I think that you have people that don't know what their clear and concise responsibilities are, and I think there's going to be a lot of things dropping through the holes. I think that if we're going to pass this budget, I think this reorganization better come to a conclusion very quickly. It just seems to me that we're flying by the seat of our whatever, but this is, it's not a chess game. This has to be resolved. Thank you.
Counselor Connery.
Yes, I have a concern with regard to the building inspection or the building department end of it, Mr. Curry. And I think I have an idea of why Councilor Hay, and I can't speak for him, filed this petition, which we took up tonight at the Finance Committee, which he wants to establish a fine or a fee for building permits that are pulled after a project is started. Mr. President, I would like to ask you if you could send an official request comparing the building permit revenues for fiscal year 2009 versus fiscal year 2010. I have a feeling that we're going to see a reduction, because I think we've got people who are doing things now probably without permits, and we're losing on the revenue side. And again, this is part of this alleged reorganization. Thank you.
Counselor Di Natale.
Wow. For 3 years, I've heard the mayor say that she wants all of our input. And this is the third budget session that when I make recommendations for cuts, that's my way of giving my input. And for 3 years, none of that has ever been adhered to. Every time I recommend cuts, I hear the mayor tell the public that we're trying to be conservative, and that's what I'm trying to do here. The councilors who have expressed concern in the past are justified in being concerned, as the mayor is, that if we cut from a department and there's a supplemental budget to reallocate the money to a place that we know it will get spent, then we're jeopardizing our free cash. Never in 3 years have I disputed that. My opportunity here is to give the mayor the options to make those decisions. Does she want to submit a supplemental budget for public safety, or for the Board of Health, or for any other department, or does she want to put it into a secondary reserve account so we can just hold on to it if we need it? Right now, there are no options like that. And I'm not going to sit here and approve a $94 million budget without one cut recommendation. I've never seen that happen, in my experience, in public or private sector. I get fought on with a $1,000 cut, I get fought on with a $100,000 cut. Let's face it, everybody, no matter what we decide to cut, it's never going to be received well. So, I am trying to be conservative here. Put it away if you want. Do what other cities and towns do. I don't know of many companies that'll go to a department head, what do you need? I need $1.5 million. Well, you only spent $1 million. Why do you want $1.5 million? Oh, well, this could happen, that could happen. You know what? We'll wait to see if it happens, and we'll hold that extra 500 grand on the side until it does. That's not revolutionary. That's how we generate our free cash in the city. We pad the budgets, and then when they don't spend it, then we throw a party because we have all this free cash. My problem is, this is misrepresenting the true needs. There are departments that don't need what they're getting. So there should be a line item in this package to balance the budget that says general budgetary reserve. There are other cities and towns that do this. I don't know how many times I have to repeat that. It's a foreign concept, I guess, to everybody else. I don't know. That's all I'm saying. Don't spend it if you don't want to. Put it somewhere where there's added transparency, so the taxpayers at home will go, okay, here's a bucket of money that we would need if there's an emergency. We want to do it. If the mayor wants to do that, I would wholeheartedly support that. I just don't like getting a budget that has all this excess funding in it. Put it into a place where it belongs. Put it into a reserve account like snow and ice. That's all I've been asking for. So I just wanted to clarify that, because every year that's what gets said when I make these recommendations, that I just want to spend it in some other place. When I mention police or cruisers and all that stuff, I'm just trying to emphasize how much money we're talking here and compare it to what we're not getting as a result. Because it's a lot of money. And I'll keep doing it. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Curry? Thank you, sir. Moving forward to the airport, page 53. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
We have airport personal services, $238,966. Airport expenses, $804,500. Total, $1,043,466. Walker, Mr. Gritton, good evening.
Hi. Good evening.
Like to just take questions, or do you have any comment?
Love to just take questions.
Councilors. Councilor Bove.
Yeah, thank you. I've been going over this letter that was sent to us, saying the costs of, what it amounts to is, this whole thing, it amounts to nothing more than a scare tactic. You probably have some figures in here that are correct, but this is a scare tactic. It has absolutely nothing to do with the budget. This has to do with the problem that you're having with the mayor and and signing the, what are they called? Yeah, signing those. And this is what you're bringing before us.
Counselor? I don't think they sent that letter to us in relationship to the budget, though.
All it has to do with, it's all the same thing. But this letter is a scare tactic. To get to the budget, I'd love to. I question this sick personal day buyback, $10,000. I don't see where that is a relative figure. It's just beyond. Could you explain that one to us, please?
If everybody that had sick time wanted to cash in what they could, that's what it would cost us.
And have you ever run across that situation where everyone wanted to cash in their sick days and personal days at one time?
Personal days, yes. Not all of them, but yes, we have.
In FY08, you had $5,513. In '09, you had $10,000. 010, you had $10,000, and now you're trying to budget $10,000 for FY11. I find that to be quite exorbitant, because I really don't believe that you have enough employees down there that would warrant that kind of a budget line item.
It looks like already this year we spent $5,000
This year,
in 010.
and this is the employees that you have working for you.
Yes, sir.
How many employees do you have?
I have 3 full-time right now and 3 full part-time.
And they've already put in for how much sick time and personal time?
Oh, I have one person who's been out for almost 6 months, so, but I don't think that comes out of this.
Okay. I still feel that is very high for the small amount of people you have working for you.
We have to cover it should everybody want to cash their time in that they're entitled to.
Do you think maybe if we were to cut that down considerably, and if you started running out, you could come back to the city for this?
We can come back. Sure.
Well, I'm going to make a recommendation that that particular line item be cut down to $7,000.
So a reduction of 3?
Reduction of 3.
You all set, Counselor?
Actually not.
Okay.
You also have an assistant. FY09 was $40,000, it's gone up to $42,334, and FY11 is $43,744, which is a 3% increase. Is this the assistant to you?
Yes, sir. That's Debbie, and that's a step raise.
Yeah, step raise. I'd like to get down to the bottom line, advertising and marketing. You've never had anything in the budget for that, and this year you want $5,000.
We had $5,000 there last year. We just chose not to spend it because just our business is so bad right now that we're just barely making it. And we don't spend any money unless it's in our checking account.
Okay?
It's not like the city usually does things. So we just haven't had the money to spend there. But we need it there, or we want it there, we like it there. So
But do you need
if the
it?
opportunity comes, we can spend it.
But do you need it there?
I don't need it this year, to be honest with you.
Okay, so there's another
I
recommendation.
don't see, business is bad right now.
There's a recommendation that that line item be stricken. Reduce $5,000. Thank you.
Counselor Conry?
Yes, I have a question with regard to Councilor Bove's question about the sick time buyback. Isn't that contractual?
I believe it is.
So is it a bargain for? It's a bargain for item?
I really don't know the answer to that. Maybe one of us will answer that part.
Do you know, Mr. Ciotta, if that's a?
You know, Ken?
No, I don't know.
Not off the top of my head, I'd have to go look at the contract.
Okay.
Counselor, would you like me to send something to the Human Resource Director for clarification on that?
Yes, please. I don't think I have any other questions because the budget basically, the total airport budget for expenses is down 5%. The salary section is up 2%, but I think in the future we'll be dealing with overall salaries in this budget. Thank you, Mr.
Counselor
President.
Clark?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just 2 questions. Kit and Fred, airport improvements, down 83%. from 48,000 to 8,000. My first question is, what do we get for 48,000 in this year's budget?
I'm sorry.
What did we get for $48,000 in this year's budget under the, under airport improvements?
We got the SWPP, which is Stormwater Protection Plan. We've gotten the ENF, the preliminary environmental study for the new runway. That's the only thing I can think of right now.
That's only the 8,000,
Yeah.
right?
No, that's this, he's talking about this year, 48,000.
You got 48,000 under
This
this
was-
year's budget, current budget that we're in now.
This has to do with the grants that we anticipated spending. So this year reflects minus the 40,000 because at this stage right now, even if we continue on with the grant program, we won't have that expense. It will take another year or two for us to get back on track with the program.
Okay, so,
That 48,000 is the 2.5% that the airport.
Okay. So in this year's budget, you're not going to need
In this
that.
year, in this year's, it was there. In 2011, it's not because we know down the road that we're not going to have that expense.
Okay. So that's the only difference between last year and this year. And your phone went up quite a bit from 4,000 to 5,500, or at least that's what you plan on in the 11 budget, up $1,500.
Well, I believe
That
that.
seems like a nice little hop.
I believe that has to do with just added expenses for fax, for lines, for cell phones.
Yeah. And we're internet service, we're not connected with the city, we have to buy that from Verizon separately.
Okay. So you eventually got that from Verizon?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. Because I remember the run-in we had with Comcast when they came here. Did Verizon do anything for the airport, or are you just a
Well, what
customer?
they did do is, they did come down and they identified lines that we were being charged for that we shouldn't have. So it did cut some of our expenses on phones because of just the way it was laid out because of past activities at the airport.
Yeah.
They had special numbers for Airfest, that type
Oh,
of
yeah,
thing.
okay.
So those were eliminated, but again, when we look at the budget, we anticipate increases on phones.
So, but you weren't being charged for those lines?
In some cases, we were.
Really?
Yeah.
Why didn't we pick that up?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we should have picked that up, right?
Right. Well, yeah, we should have, and we did, but it had to do with a change of vendors.
It probably wasn't much money.
I don't think so, and I think it was only maybe one or two lines that we really didn't know were there.
Thank you.
Councilor Di Natale.
Just quickly, your budget's an enterprise fund, basically, or it's unique in the way that what your budget reflects is what you're projecting you're going to take in revenue.
Yes. Yes.
Because your department, you guys don't spend much unless you don't have the cash on hand.
Correct. Right.
So a big part of your revenue, I take it, is from the fuel sales.
Yes.
They're $600,000 for a third straight year. Why the stagnation? I mean, fuel prices aren't... I bet those are your expenses, but I know you get fuel
prices
revenues.
go up,
Yep.
but because of the economy in the last 2 or 3 years, people don't buy as much fuel.
Okay.
So it's a combination of both. And when we budget it, we kind of look at what we've bought and what we've gone through. So we try to stay within a certain parameter, and 600,000 is the
Now,
number.
what happens if you spend X and you take in Y, and Y is greater than X? Where does that extra money go for the year?
That goes into the airport account.
Okay. Okay. Is that like a separate account?
It's.
That's
it's
like a
supposed to
reserve?
be- Yeah, it is. It's a separate account, but it's in the city's system, but it's maintained by the.
Do you happen to know what that account has right now? I mean, do you guys have any reserves?
We're running very thin. We're just about on the line, if we're not, maybe even be a little bit below the break-even line. And come the first of the year, we're gonna make a big dip because we have an insurance policy that's due, and that's $12,500 bang right that day that's gonna come out of the airport funds. But business is picking up, and we expect we expect to climb out of the hole by the beginning of fall.
So you're saying you're close to like even?
You
don't really have a lot of excess.
We're actually losing a little bit right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Tight.
Thank you.
Counselor Joseph.
If we're gonna, I guess my recommendation would be for a cut of $1,043,466 to the airport account. Because if we're gonna keep cutting or not keep moving forward with the grant assurances, which is the long range and the long range planning for the airport, then we might as well cut it off now, because that's the monies that we'd need in order to guarantee the airport's future, not necessarily the money that the airport is using currently to sustain its budget. The budget only allows them to have people fly in and out of there on a daily basis. The grant assurance actually is what allows the airport to grow and thrive. So my recommendation would be to cut the airport of $1,043,466 until we have grant assurances.
Counselor Conry.
Yes, Mr. President, I have a couple of questions for the gentleman here. I believe they're going to, in the end, Councilor Joseph has just made the proposal for the cut. In the end, it's going to affect this budget. First question is, have we made any progress at all with the administration with regard to the grant assurances?
No, we're,
Have any, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, you haven't. Secondly, have any meetings been set up to do this? To discuss this?
Yes.
My concern is, somewhere along the line, we've got to resolve this one way or another. And it definitely, whatever the resolution is, or non-resolution is, it's going to have an effect on this budget. I think Councilor Caddy made some statements 3 weeks ago now, Councilor, that you said you would like to see somebody get together the following morning to hash this thing out. Something has to be done. We've got businesses operating at that airport. We've got businesses there that are paying taxes at that airport. Let's see if we can reach an agreement somehow. Get a facilitator in. Let them facilitate a meeting between both parties to see that we can put this thing to bed once and for all. Because we've only got a month left on this budget. And we don't want to leave this in limbo, this department anyway. Thank you.
Counselor Caddy.
If I could ask this question, if you don't mind, I noticed that Worcester Airport got sold to Massport, was that correct? How does that work out? Massport is a government agency.
It's, I don't know the details, but I think it had to have been negotiated through the city and through FAA and Massport, but I don't know. I have no idea what their details
Worcester
are.
got $17 million for their airport, which
I read that.
is way low for a piece of property like that, but
It's very contrary to what the FAA usually does. So that was done at the DC level, probably, not at the.
I would imagine, I mean, it's the city received 17 million. The city of Worcester can absorb that in a split second these days, but it doesn't seem like enough. But This whole situation with the airport is very frustrating for me. I feel bad for you guys. I just wish something would move. I mean, it's to hear you guys in here, and it sounds like you're going backwards. I mean, this is horrible. If we're going to have an airport, we should have the best airport we can have. And
I agree.
I apologize to you guys.
Any other questions or comments for the gentleman? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Councilors, before we adjourn, if I could just remind everybody of the Memorial Day services on Monday. You should have all gotten an email from the veterans agent, but I'm sure that everybody checks their email or that the computers are working, so just a reminder. Motion and a second to adjourn.